Okay. As people start coming on, welcome everyone to Weekend Wind Down. I think we're live. I have to check Facebook, I think, because it's not responding the way it normally does. Hold on one second. I know we had RSVPs for this broadcast because people were really hot on this topic lately. So, okay, it just notified Facebook now that I'm live, but let me double check on my business page before I say welcome.
Oh, we're live.
Oh, we're live? Okay, good. I'm glad you could check because I'm just spinning.
We've been live about 40 seconds.
Okay, all right. Well, welcome everyone to Weekend Wind Down with Business Coach Nancy. Cheers, Peter.
Cheers, Nancy.
Oh, a nice beer. So I'm happy to have Peter Lang, Designer CPA, on Weekend Wind Down again, right? This is your second time?
Yeah, I was on about a year ago.
A year ago. Okay. And we were joking about how with this topic that I should have the whole bottle sitting here and he should have about 10 beer bottles.
10 beers.
10 beers. So one of the questions I get asked all the time, and I did a little recap with Peter before the broadcast, is about, as a business coach, what should I be charging sales tax? Should I be charging for my hourly rate? Should I be charging for the different service models? So I often reach out to Peter and go, do we have an answer to this? And the last time I reached out, you said, everything's changing in 2020 in many states. And I thought, can you just come back on Weekend Wind Down and let's talk about, a little bit of a dry topic, but so important for the designers to understand sales tax, correct?
Correct. Yep. And with it changing constantly all the time, it's not something that whatever we say today could be changing a month from now. So, but so what I'm saying is it's a work in progress and something that needs to be paid attention to all of the time.
On top of everything else. So let me ask you, should the designers be relying on their CPAs or accountants or bookkeepers to give them this information, or should they, as the owners, tap into this once a quarter and make sure that nothing has changed?
Well, so a lot of times bookkeepers will provide that service, and if they are providing that service to the state that you are in, they may or may not know that you're thinking about doing a project in another state. So communication with whoever is filing your sales tax, if you have someone else doing it, is important. And then seeing if they would be willing to do the research. I always say if you get a phone call or an email from someone in a different state, or you're selling something in a different state, before you do anything, before you send them anything, before you even write back, you want to make sure someone is paying attention to the rules in that jurisdiction.
Okay, I'm going to try to start with the simple and then get more complicated, if that's even possible.
Yeah, sure. No, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So when designers sell product, where they're buying it from the supplier, wholesale, they're pricing it, reselling it, is there any state that you shouldn't be charging sales tax?
Oh, I doubt it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you are letting them use their own credit card, this might not be simple. I might be jumping into it too quick. If you're letting them use their credit card, but using your discount and your tax exempt number at that supplier, is that okay?
What is the vendor invoice name in is what I'm wondering about.
So if the vendor invoice name is in the designer's name, it's putting the designer liable.
That jurisdiction is probably going to want to see sales tax come from whoever is actually whoever is actually on that vendor invoice.
Unless there was a tax exempt number, but at some point, if you get a tax audit, or if the vendor gets a tax audit, they're going to want to see that sales tax was charged somewhere along the way before it got to the end user.
Correct. So in that situation, whoever is using the product would be required to pay use tax. The tax has to be paid from somebody. So as long as the state or the jurisdiction sees that either sales or use tax was paid by someone, then it sounds like they would be happy in that situation.
So talk to me about use tax versus sales tax.
So if you buy something, let's say you bought something and you intend, you're going to intend on selling it at some point. So you buy it, you use your resale certificate, it's exempt. You have it, let's say, in your showcase or your storage area in the form of inventory. And let's say in 3 months' time, you're either going to use it in your office or you give it away or something. You have to, because you didn't ever sell it, you still have to pay a use tax for it. They want to see that tax happen at some point, and they call it a use tax.
Is it a different tax rate than the sales?
No, most of the time it's the same rate.
Okay. I'm just welcoming people on. I think I missed Sarah. Hello, everyone. Okay. I hope everyone caught that. Let me just repeat that. If you buy something for a designer, for a client, you're a designer, you buy it for a client, you're selling it to a client, you must add sales tax. If you're letting the client buy it tax exempt under your tax exempt number, you could be liable if somewhere along the way tax isn't paid, correct?
Yeah.
And then if you've bought it tax-free with your tax exempt number, held it in a showroom, never sold it, decided to bring it into your own home or give it away, at that point somewhere use tax has to be paid.
Right. They call it use tax because you didn't sell it, but you're still using it.
Okay. All right. So I know for a fact that's not happening for a lot of people.
Now, honestly, you would only get caught if you get audited, right? So, but yes, technically that would be the case.
Do you have the chance of getting caught if the vendor who sold it to you gets a tax audit?
That's a good question. Most of the time when someone is getting audited for sales tax, they're going to hit them for the consequences.
Okay, so they're not going to then go down the mountain to the people who bought from them and then start checking all those people, not automatic.
They're probably going to say, this is the difference. This is what you should have paid sales tax on. We don't really care that you didn't collect it. And we don't care if you collect it later. You're going to pay us, basically.
Got it. Okay, so that's product. That's the simple part, right? Yeah. Okay, so now let's just talk consult fee. If the designer, so I always recommend you charging a consult fee if you're getting a call on the phone, paid consult. Do they need to charge sales tax on a paid consult?
It depends on the state. So most of the time, services like that, where you're just giving advice, are not taxable. But I will say that with the new case, the Wayfair versus South Dakota case, it's opened the door for every state to try to tax everything, basically. There is 12 states alone that are trying to change it so that all services are now taxable. This is what's happening. Basically, states are struggling to earn money. And, now this is a great way. They opened the door, a great way to add it so that they can do anything in order to make more money.
Okay, we're going to go back and answer Wendy's question. Then we're going to come back to that Wayfair case because I want to hear about it. So Wendy's saying if you purchase product and pay the sales tax when you buy it, then sell it to a client and charge them sales tax again, you're supposed to be charging them the sales tax I added.
Wendy, are you marking up that product and selling it to the client at a higher amount? That's the question.
Yes, because the tax has to be on the final sale amount.
If you are to get audited, and I think Wendy's in Massachusetts.
Yes.
So if the Massachusetts DOR comes out and they're looking at it, they're going to want to see that marked up invoice on that final sale that you sold it to, that marked up cost you sold the customer, and they're going to expect you to pay sales tax on that marked up amount.
So let's make it simple. $1,000 product, you bought it for $1,000, 6% tax rate.
Yep.
You paid $60. Did I do that right?
Yep.
Okay. But then you sold it for $2,000.
Mm-hmm. They're gonna look and say, did you pay in $120 on the $2,000 to us?
And what if you paid, see, it gets too messy if you say, well, I already paid 60, so I only have to pay them 60 more. Like, how do you even do that?
Some states will allow you to put a credit or a prepaid amount when you're filing to recoup that.
Interesting.
But in order to do that, you have to be filing a sales tax form in that jurisdiction.
Okay, we have
so
many subjects.
Let's go back and like just kind of talk about what changed, because it always used to be kind of where you're physically located, right? It always used to be like, do I have an employee? Do I have an office in that state? If not, I don't have to really worry about it. But then they changed it after this, and they said, well, no, now Nexus changed. Now it's all about a dollar amount, a threshold dollar amount, and number of transactions. And most states they're trying to do a gross revenue amount of 100,000 or 200 transactions. So for the e-commerce people who are selling in all different states, and you're like, well, I don't sell over 100,000 in any state. But if you have more than 200 transactions, now you've opened up that jurisdiction.
A transaction is every time you bill them. So if you're billing in segments of 3, that's 3 transactions.
Yep.
Okay.
So now what happens if you're thinking about this and you just heard me say that and you're like, oh crap, this year I'm going to hit that, or I already hit that. Now what? Most of the states are saying that they're not going to go back and audit and go back, but they want you now to say, okay, I've hit that threshold amount, and now I have to register in that state and get a resale certificate and start filing in that state.
Okay, so if you are a designer working in 3 different states or get hired to go to California, you're in New York to do a full home in California. Some of it you're doing virtually because you're communicating with them virtually, but the end product is ending up in California. It has to be California state sales tax. It has to be California rules as to whether the consult is taxable.
Exactly. Whether the project is happening in California. And
then you have to have filed
You have to register now with California, get that resale certificate, and then file based on how they want you to file, the time period that they want to file. So when you get that resale certificate, they're going to tell you, we want you to file every quarter or every month. Usually it starts out at a longer period of time, and then when they see that activity grow, then they send you something and say, hey, starting such and such a date, we want our money monthly instead of quarterly, for example.
Okay. All right. More questions are coming in. I'm going to try to keep up, everyone. But one of the things that Peter and I were very clear on in our pre-conversation is that he really can't go state by state live here when, so like we do have a question, you may know the answer, you may not. So we decided that instead of we're going to talk globally about sales tax, what's happening in 2020, what's happened in some lawsuits that could be causing it to change again. But like Christine is asking, she was told non-licensed professionals, which New York State interior designers are, that New York State says any unlicensed professional has to charge sales tax on their services.
I believe New York's one of those states that charges sales tax on almost all of their services, yes.
So that means consult fee?
Everything, yeah.
Designer for a day, which is basically consulting for a day.
Right. Yep.
Hours, everything at the New York State sales tax rate.
And now, Connecticut just started it on January 1st. So they just call it interior design services.
And it's taxable.
Yep. And I tried to find like more details on that, but they are looking for money. So they just call it interior design services.
Wow. Okay. And here we also have counties.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're just They're trying to hit you with everything, you know?
So if we're a Nassau County designer working in Suffolk County and delivering product in Suffolk County,
Yep.
technically they need to know that too.
And the good news is if you're using most of those accounting softwares where you're coming up, whatever you're invoicing in, I shouldn't say just accounting, project management softwares, you can add, in a lot of them, you can add not only state, but also the county. So that when you're putting in the customer, where you're delivering that to the customer's address, it's gonna hopefully automatically charge that state and county tax on those things, so that when you see the invoice and you send it to the customer, it's an accurate amount.
Okay. All right. So Wendy has given us an update here. That's why I switched to not paying tax, using tax exempt, and then charging the client sales tax and then paying it in the state. Yes. I mean, that's the most common practice, unless you're just letting the client use their credit card retail and paying the sales tax.
I would say that as much as it's a pain in the butt, the best practices would be to let that state know that you're doing work, that what type of work you're doing in that state, getting the resale certificate and making sure that you're giving it to all the vendors, getting the exempt, and then collecting the sales tax from your client on that marked up amount, that gross total amount, collecting it, putting it in a separate bank account, don't touch the money. And then when it comes time to file that tax return, set up that separate bank account routing and account number, and then the money's already in the account. Whatever, we filed and get paid. It was never your money to begin with.
Exactly, right. I teach my clients the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So good advice. I hope everyone heard that. So Leslie is saying, okay, I'm in Kansas.
Yep.
We have a contractor retailer status. We pay sales tax on wholesale, not on markup.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. That I did not know that. So everyone's going to start. We have so many comments coming in here, but let's right at the beginning. If someone does not know what the rules are right now in their state, what steps would they take? I'm going to hold this comment actually for a second. What steps would they take to find out?
Okay, so some of the states actually have a specific PDF and information specifically for interior designers. Not many, but some of them do. Others will give that information on their website. So if you Google, let's say, Massachusetts Department of Revenue sales tax rules, and you get on their site and kind of try to get on that information on whatever, you can find, not even go into, like, for me, I'm a geek, so I go straight into like the actual law, and I'm reading the law, and then even I'm like, my head's gonna explode. But
I was gonna say, I try and I go, but what's the interpretation of interior design services, right?
The story of my life. But you can find, the states are trying to be generic and kind of talk in layman's terms and try to explain it. And even some states I know of have a PDF, let's say, of interior design service details, and they use examples as well. So a Google search is gonna maybe put you down a rabbit hole, but at least it might give you some generic information. And I recommend when you Google something, make sure, just like anything else, make sure you're looking at where it's coming from. Make sure that the website you're looking for is the state's website, not like someone who wrote a blog post, not someone who commented in a forum. Make sure it's straight coming from that state's jurisdiction. And then the other thing that I just got reminded of, because I've been reading these different states and what they say is, and it is totally okay to do this. You might be on hold for a while, but some of the states are even saying, if you are in a situation that's unique and you're not really sure, whatever, call us and tell us the situation, and we will tell you whether or not you should collect sales tax or not. And I have heard of some examples of clients calling, explaining that, and I figured the states all would be like, nope, that's taxable. But there are situations where they said, you know what, in that situation, you don't need to collect sales tax.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So I mean, that's probably 2 out of 10 times, you know, but if you really do get in a jam and it is a unique situation, you can't figure out that, you know, you could always call and try to get an answer.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try to take some questions here because I don't know how many far down I am.
Okay.
I'm afraid to move my cursor because I don't want to lose anybody. So if I have a resale certificate for Georgia, but one of my clients has a vacation home in Florida, do I need to get a Florida resale certificate if it's only one small project? I'm going to answer yes, but you tell us if I'm right.
No, well, it depends on how big the dollar amount of the project is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be a case of call the state or call your accountant.
You could find out. Hold on one second. I'm trying to open something because you could find out what that Nexus dollar amount, that gross receipt dollar amount is by a Google search.
Nexus stands for?
Nexus is whether or not you have presence in a certain area. So before, presence would be like, do you have an office? Do you have employees? Are you physically in that state? Now it's just opened up of like, are you doing work? Are you selling remotely there? That kind of stuff. The whole online thing just kind of blew this up.
Yeah, because now you're making, and I want to keep going with questions, but you're making me think all these people who are doing e-design.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It could be a matter of number of transactions, no more than 200 or over a certain threshold, possibly 100,000.
Yep.
In your business itself, not necessarily in the state.
No, in that state.
In that state. Okay.
So let's say, for that example, and it's 100,000, 200 transactions, you sold $25,000 worth of stuff to, I don't know, Minnesota, let's just say, and it was less than 100,000, but you had 205 transactions. Technically, you should have been charging sales tax, and going forward, you should in the future.
Listen, I think anybody would be happy to sell $200,000 worth of e-design in any one state. So pretty much, are you saying maybe if we spread it around, you might be okay?
Might not be so bad.
Might not be so bad, right?
Yeah.
To have 200,000 in one state. So in the case of Georgia and Florida, it's going to depend on the dollar amount, you think?
Correct. Yep. So I don't have it in front of me right now, and I can that's something I can look up and comment later. But most of the states, if they haven't already, they're all striving to have that $100,000 threshold amount.
Okay.
So if the project you're talking about, Laura, if it's a project that's, let's say you're going to gross out 40,000, then technically, if it's one of those $100,000 states, they don't care because it's not over 100,000.
So you still have to. You don't have to pay. You
just don't have to charge sales tax in Florida.
You just don't have to charge sales tax in Florida, and you don't have to pay it in her state, Georgia.
I don't, honestly, I'm not really sure about the details of Georgia.
Okay. You purchase it in Georgia, you sell it in Florida.
Yep. Most of the time it's where it's being delivered.
So Georgia, where you bought it, is never going to get sales tax?
Yeah, but now I'm thinking that if you don't pay sales tax in Florida, then Georgia's going to say you owe us use tax.
This is where knowing your municipality's phone number might be helpful to get an answer on something unique like this.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's really not that unique. A lot of designers work in different states when their clients have a vacation home.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's why it's such a bigger issue for the industry, for other industries.
Okay, so Lara, we didn't quite answer your question, except that this to me sounds like it's worth a call to your municipality or to your accountant to research it. Or if I know Peter, he'll be looking at this later and trying to figure it out.
Probably. It's very hard to come up with 50 different states plus the jurisdictions and keep them all in my head. I've tried, and then I was like, this is totally ridiculous. Because then 3 months later, I'd look again, and I'd be like, oh, so that changed.
I know, and I know you were trying to put together a PDF, but I think the hard part of that is it's literally January 17th, everything on this PDF is true, but like by tomorrow, is it going to be true because of all these pending changes?
Pending laws, yep. and the states, they'll put out a pending law, and then it'll get rejected. But don't think that they're not going to try again in 6 months from now. To try to make whatever taxable that's not already taxable in that state. So.
And they don't have to roll these out by quarters. They could just roll this out tomorrow, whenever they pass.
Usually when it gets passed, then they're like, okay, so let's say it got passed June 1st of 2019. They'll be like, okay, starting January 1st, 2020, this is the new law and this is the way it's going to be. So they do give leeway in time. So.
Okay. All right. So Jeffrey, for Florida, consult fee. Well, I remember reading this myself because his bookkeeper had sent me some documentation.
Yeah.
And it sounded like, in layman's terms, if that consult resulted in the sale of furnishings, furniture, then you should be charging sales tax on the consults.
Correct.
Hourly or square footage fee.
So Florida and like even California at one time, but I think they're trying to get all services at some point. But those states that's the biggest part about all of this is when they say only charge sales tax on services directly relating to tangible personal property. So in that situation, if you're in a state like that, I would recommend making sure that the types of services are completely separated on separate invoices. Because if you got audited and you have the fees, the design fees for the time that you spent for selling that product, and it's all on one invoice, and you got audited and they came in and they saw that invoice, and let's say you put a little bit of time for consult fees that had nothing to do with it, but it was on that invoice and you didn't charge tax for that, the Florida revenue, the agent would say it's on the same invoice and we're charging sales tax on all of that.
So in Florida, your understanding is that it's invoice based.
Right. Like some of the states will even say in their information, keep detailed invoices, keep them separate if it's something that's more of like has nothing to do with tangible personal property. Keep it on a separate invoice.
Okay.
So my advice would be keep as detailed records as possible on your invoice of what exactly you are doing, and make sure that you can see that. And also, if you live in a state where you're not really sure, and some services are and some aren't, to try to don't put all of everything in one invoice, especially if it's like consult fee for like you're just doing something and picking out and telling a client what paint color to use or something like that. Make sure that's not added to anything. Like if you're just like, oh, I'm behind on my billing and I've got to get these invoices out, and you just check it off in your software, boom, send it all out in one invoice. If you were to ever get audited and they looked at that invoice and it's mix and match, they're going to hit you for everything because it was all on the same invoice.
Okay.
Nobody is going to want to go back to their customer later, 6 months or a year later, and say, hey, I need that sales tax because I got hit on it.
No, but I mean, when I read the Florida sales tax detail mumbo jumbo, the way I read it was that you almost had to have two companies, one for your consults and then one for your sale of product. Because if it was even in the process of getting to selling the product, it could be subject to sales tax. It's very confusing.
When in doubt, collect sales tax.
Did you coin that statement? I think you need to copyright that.
Yeah, because honestly, sales tax is very complicated, and we're talking about potentially a lot of money, but it's not your money. You know what I mean? It is, and it's not. You obviously don't want to charge sales tax to your customer if you don't have to. I get that. Yeah, but in a situation where if you live in a state where they're that vague about it, and you could potentially get hit, it's easier to collect the sales tax and not get burnt and be like, you know what, I think this sounds like this, and I'm gonna just not collect sales tax on this. If you get caught later, that's just something that you're gonna have to pay.
It's true, but listen, all the designers, you work with designers, I work with designers. Everyone's always trying to save their clients some dollars.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really hard to say, like, across the board, I don't ever want a sales tax audit, so I'm charging you across the board, right? It's like, so you wouldn't say it like that, obviously. You would just include it.
But in that situation also, you could, as much as annoying as it might be, you could do your due diligence and even call a sales tax hotline on let's say you're in Florida. The Florida website has numbers and help and chats, even probably, I don't know, some states have the chat option as well. And as much as that's a pain, spending a little extra time or having someone do that for you, whether it's your bookkeeper or an accountant or whatever, doing that for you and just getting peace of mind and confirmation before you send that invoice out and making sure you're doing the right thing.
Not an easy business, that's for sure. So Sarah's saying California does not charge sales tax on services so far.
Okay.
I was going to say, okay, we don't know every state. Peter doesn't know every state off the top of his head.
I believe they might, though, on if you're selling directly related to selling product. That's one of those states that did that.
What if you're selling info products?
What if you're selling what?
What if they're selling?
If it's, they call it a personal, tangible personal property. So like a piece of furniture.
Got it. Okay.
That kind of thing.
Okay. Jeffrey said, sorry, we're speaking nationally. That's okay, Jeffrey. It was an interesting.
No, Jeffrey, Florida is one of those unique things that their rules are extremely vague. Like we said, we were reading that thing that came directly from the state, and you get halfway done, you're like, okay, I've gotten nowhere.
Right. I'm more confused than ever is the bottom line, especially the terminology they use.
You know what's funny? Sorry, I've got this book, sales tax book of all this stuff, and I take notes because I'm a geek. And it says, California is one of those things that on their website it says California invites you to contact the customer service center if you're having trouble determining the line between taxable and non-taxable.
Okay, so here's where my brain goes. Do I really want to pick up that phone? Do they know it's me calling?
Oh, no. You call them and you talk to them and you try to get the answer, but you never say what your name is.
Okay, good. I want to make it clear.
And if they ask you, you hang up and you call again and you get somebody else.
That's where my mind went. Like, do I want to bring attention to the fact
that you don't call California and say, hey, I'm so-and-so from this state, and I got a question on whether or not and they're like, oh, really? What's your EIN? Oh, really? No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, good.
No, and it's okay. As soon as you get your answer or whatever they say you don't like, just hang up. They're not going to call you back.
They're not tracking phone numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We think.
Diane's saying architects don't because they have a good lobby group. Do we need a better lobby group? I did not.
I know they have a strong lobby group because of certain things. When the tax law changed at the last minute, all of a sudden there was a list of professions that were not going to be able to take advantage potentially of a certain deduction, a new deduction, and the last thing that I saw in one of my geek CPE things, all of a sudden architects was crossed out on the thing. So yeah, they got a great lobby group.
Interesting. Okay, Diane is saying yes, charge of sales tax in the county you are delivering to.
Yeah, and those sales tax forms that you're filling out, if you're in New York and you've got to deal with, or wherever you are, and you have all those counties, that's when you need a good bookkeeper or accountant to file those, because it's going to take a while to just even put all that information in for every county. You don't want to be doing that yourself. You went into business to be designing, and you filing a detailed sales tax form like that is, yeah. No.
Does it cost money to register in different states or counties that you know of?
Most states do not charge to get a resale certificate. The only thing is as soon as you get Nexus and you now are collecting sales tax, that opens up the ability or the possibility that you now have to file a corporate sales, franchise or income tax return in there, and now you're going to have fees in that state. Yes.
Okay, I just have to say I don't know how you do what you do, because this is so confusing. And you service designers from every state.
Well, I'm open. I don't have clients in all 50 states, but yes. But basically, if I if I get a phone call from a state that I don't have someone with, I go and check the rules before I take them on as a client.
Oh, you do?
I want to do it. But most states, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've had to deal with most states. So
amazing. Okay, Leslie's clarifying. Contractor retailer is only for things we sell that are permanently affixed to the space, not blinds, drapery, or furnishings.
Yep. And we could go through there's a whole detail in every state on that kind of stuff too, but we don't want to go into that much detail.
We can't, unfortunately, guys, we can't go into that kind of detail for every situation. Christine, what are the numbers every designer business should be calculating and keeping track of? You mean in general for your business, Christine? I mean, in my membership site, Peter did how to read your balance sheet, how to read your income statement, but you're talking hopefully on the sales tax side?
Yeah.
Right? So what they should know, where their end product is going, what the sales tax is in those areas, make sure they're registered in those areas, and make sure they're paying their sales tax in those areas on a quarterly or yearly basis, however that state or
whatever that state wants. Yep.
Okay.
And also, I'm not sure if it's a generic or a sales tax question, the details of that question, but this leads me to say, if there's anyone listening who still is not using a very good project management or accounting software, this is why the whole using spreadsheets thing is not worth it. You gotta use a good product that knows all these rules and has it in their software. And also, you need, if you're thinking about staying in business and you're looking on what to investing in a good bookkeeper who's going to be with you for the day-to-day transactions and putting that in and understands the industry is essential to the future of your business.
Right, and you're talking about a MyDoma or Ivy or Studio Designer, one of those softwares that you can put in the different county and the codes and the tax rates.
Yeah, all of them have the ability to add all of the states and counties that you're going to be doing work in.
Okay.
And most of them, if you don't put that state that is in, it might just, if you were to look at a report, it might just say out of state. So it is important when you get a new project in a different, in a new jurisdiction, a new state, to make sure you go in wherever you need to go and add that, click on that information with the sales tax rate so that it starts to know we need to start calculating it and showing up on the report.
Okay, I am skipping some comments, guys, because we just, for time's sake, I want to make sure we get to as much as we can. But Danielle, I've had her on. She loves the fact that we were saying, like, don't poke the bear.
Don't poke the bear. Yep, exactly. Yep.
Don't tell them who we are, who you are. Hang up the phone.
Qualify for Q. Yes. Yep.
Right. Don't QBI.
That was the deduction I was talking about, where there was going to be some limitations, and then all of a sudden architects got crossed out, and then they were okay no matter what.
Okay.
You need to get it out of your head.
Yeah. The next comment was, you need to get it out of your head.
Oh, thank you. Yes, my head's only so big to fit all of this information in.
You and Danielle should talk. She's the numbers person too. So let's just quickly okay, so I got asked the other day about additional revenue streams for large design firms where they have an online site and they're selling wallpaper, they're selling furniture, accessories, or e-design. Let's just be clear, it's still something you have to investigate in the state it's selling to, because now with the internet you can sell anywhere, Peter. Like,
so this whole issue started when Amazon was selling to everywhere and not charging sales taxes. That's how this all started. And then I don't know And then I remember when Amazon all of a sudden was like, you know what, we're just going to charge sales tax on all of our products, no matter what, in every state. And it's because they knew they were in trouble. And then Wayfair and South Dakota. And
What
then,
happened? I don't know that story.
well, I think it was just a situation where South Dakota said you need to be charging sales tax in us, and they said no, we don't think so. And then it just it became this enormous case. And then once it went in South Dakota's favor, then all the other states were like, ooh, we're going to look at everything, and now we're going to charge sales tax on that, because South Dakota said we deserve the money for that, and they won. So then all the states got on board and said, you know what, now we can charge sales tax for all of that. And that got settled, I think, in June of 2018. So that's why in 2019, when that all got resolved, all the other states caught wind of it and was like, oh, now we're going to try to set up new laws and start getting people from, now all of a sudden this opened up the whole country, and we're now, instead of just, let's say, I don't know, I'm in Rhode Island, let's say Rhode Island just being like, I'm only getting sales tax from Rhode Island businesses. Now I have an opportunity to get sales tax from businesses all over the country, and that's going to increase our revenues.
Okay, so if you're selling e-design, check the state that of the people who are coming to you. Make sure you're under, if a threshold exists, less than 100,000 in that state, or 200 transactions possibly, but you need to check each state separately.
Every state has their own unique laws.
And how often does someone need to be checking? Like, how as business owners do we keep track of the changing rules?
I mean, I would say,
how much exposure do we really have if we make a mistake and we don't find out for 6 months?
right. I would say if you're checking every 6 months, that would be okay, unless you're accepting a project in a new state. Like, you get a phone call in a new state and you've got a project to do. You want to make sure that you're doing that research in whatever that state is before you're even agreeing to do anything.
Now, what happens if, because I'm devil's advocate, guys, I'm asking all the questions I think you might have, in addition to trying to address the questions you're putting in. What if midstream it changes? So you started out not having to charge sales tax on services.
As soon as you know that you need to, they want you to now file, and then going forward, you have to do it. Most states are saying we're not going to go back, but as soon as you know that now you are responsible to do this, we want you to now apply for resale certificate, and then going forward, you need to collect sales tax.
So pleading dumb business owners not going to work for very long.
No. No, but the good news is that they are, for the most part, saying we are going to not go back. I think that they know that going back and saying to your client from 6 months ago, oh, it's June and I just hit a threshold, I should have collected sales tax from back in January, you owe me 10 grand, is probably not going to keep you in business for very long. You're going to just, annoy people. I think that, logically in my head, that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
And most states have, when they are documenting that stuff, and I've read it, they've said it like that. Like, we expect you to follow the rules going forward.
I'm going to come back to your comment, Wendy, but I have to post Jose. Tax does not seem like, but we're drinking more, Jose.
I know.
So
and you know what? If it makes you feel better, as someone who loves taxes, I'm starting to get a headache myself. So.
We're trying to make taxes fun, but it's not really fun. But you know what? Really important topic for people to understand. So when you dial your tax municipality, just make sure you have a glass of wine or a beer with you while you're waiting on the phone.
And hopefully they're playing good background music while you're on hold.
That's right. That's right. Good dentist type music. All right, let me go back to Wendy's. Are ebooks that we charge for considered product or service? In Massachusetts, we don't charge tax on services. Should I be charging sales tax on my ebooks?
That's an interesting question. Where I would say, where are you selling the ebook? Through what you are? But I'm not sure.
You're not sure. Yeah, I mean, listen, I want to ask you, but I know you're not going to be able to answer. Like, I sell a course. I sell it to all over the United States. People are buying the course. Is a course taxable? That's not your zone of genius. You'd have to research that.
Yeah. And I mean.
Well, you sell a course. Do you have a course?
I have courses available. The sales tax one is not done because, believe it or not, I started researching this 6 months ago and said, holy cow, we talk for 12 hours and people still would be like, I still don't. What are you trying to tell me?
Well, that's what I'm saying. And it could be applicable today. So, but you sell online courses, not in sales tax yet. Do you charge sales tax on your courses?
So I use a website that does all of that. And that's a good question.
Because, okay, by the way,
I get paid out I think twice a month from something, and then
after the show, let me know. And I sell contract templates also. I'm wondering, should I be taxing them? So, you know, those.
The answer is, it probably depends on the state.
Oh,
come on. I don't know, but now I'm wondering. I gotta go figure this out.
Okay, we're talking interior designer businesses, not courses or ebooks necessarily, but that would be a really good thing for you to let me know if you decide to investigate that. Yeah. Because a lot of designers are selling other products at this point, right? So just to bring in more income, they're selling, pre-made ebooks. They're selling welcome packet templates. They're selling different things, renderings to other designers. So I would be curious, and this is a side business for a lot of people. So going back to having additional revenue streams, one could be physical furnishings and products, but one could also be those info products like courses, ebooks, and services that they do for other designers. Yep. We don't have the answer for you guys, is the bottom line. We don't have the answer at this moment in time. Wendy's like, please let me know.
So Wendy, thank you for altering my plans for tonight. It's completely changed.
I know. And then Sarah's also doing the same thing. She's selling welcome packet templates and custom welcome packets. So like this is becoming another revenue stream for designers as they just want to vary their businesses, or they just want to bring in a steady revenue stream while they're waiting for their ideal monster home client. And a lot of e-design going on. Yep. And e-design also, a lot of that includes sending just links to your clients. So sending links, when you're sending links to retail outlets, they're paying the sales tax. So it's really only about that design fee and floor plans or renderings. Like they just.
I mean, in my head, I would still see that as a service, but are they getting a tangible product? Now, I remember a while back, they were trying to get, like when a photographer would be doing a service, but giving someone a CD with all the pictures on it. Now, all of a sudden they said, well, that's tangible. And and that, I don't know if that actually, what actually happened with that, but I remember there was a huge uproar that was like, I mean, honestly, there's some states that are trying to tax accounting services, what I do, because they're saying that I give you a tangible tax return when I would tell you that it's a PDF that you can download if you want, but I'm doing a service, that kind of thing. So they're just trying to tax as much as they can. So in the future, it's only going to probably get more taxable, everything. So
okay, so in 2020, because of the lawsuits that have been brought in different states with Wayfair, Amazon is in the past, but still, this is how many? You said it before. I think you said it before we were broadcasting.
Yep.
How many states right now have pending litigation?
It was the last time, as of May of 2019, which is a long time ago now. It was 12 states. And one of those states, Connecticut, implemented it as of January 1st. So that went through. A couple of the other ones weren't, it wasn't going through, but that doesn't mean they're not going to try again.
So Connecticut, you must charge for your design services, your console, your hourly fees.
As of January 1st, 2020, Connecticut said you have to tax on interior design services. So in my head, that's everything. So if you're in Connecticut, you should be charging sales tax on all interior design services.
Anybody here from Connecticut?
Yeah. I mean, it's a bummer because now that's like, you know, even more money that the customer has to come up with to get your service. But
yes, it's definitely a bummer.
All about the money. You're right.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Christine and Danielle is saying, Peter, would they say the same about delivering financial statements like a PDF or a hard copy? That's.
Well, if they're going to tax me, then they're going to tax that.
Okay. Sue Ellen. Yes, I work in Connecticut. Sue Ellen, are you charging at this point for everything, basically? Are you charging sales tax on consults, hourly, designer for a day if you do that, designer on call if you do that? Project management, really basically anything that comes out of your firm has to have a sales tax component. And I'm curious if you're doing it, if you're getting a pushback from the client. And here's the other thing, because not everybody's doing it, that's where, you know, like this designer who's trying to do everything right is up against a designer who may not know yet that they're putting themselves at risk. And now, right? So,
January 1st, 2020. Yep.
Okay. Pretty good.
But the most important thing I would say is just because someone else tells you you don't have to doesn't mean that you can believe them and not do your due diligence and make sure that you're doing the right thing. Just like anything else in life, right? Because I have seen the auditors come in on different things, and I feel like the sales tax audits are harder than the income tax audits. They don't mess around. Also, not only like what you should charge and what you shouldn't charge, you need to make sure that you are filing on time and paying on time, because there are certain states, and I have had certain clients that got into a situation where they spent money they shouldn't have, and now they're not paying. And then, the sales tax, when it comes to, this happens in Rhode Island, it happens in California, it's happened in Massachusetts. They will come to your business and shut you down if you do not pay your sales tax, or at least call them back and come up with an installment agreement plan or something like that. If you ignore them, you will get a knock at the door at your business, and they will put locks on your door and do it. So
I will tell you that I know you're familiar with Profit First. Mm-hmm. Many of the accountants I have dealt with in the past hate when people implement Profit First.
That's because it's more work for them.
And I was just about to say, too bad, because sorry, Peter, but if we're paying our accountant, they have to do it the way we want to do it to be able to run our businesses in a way that protects us. And I know I have set up separate accounts. I'm not a full Profit First. I do what's called Profit First Lite. It's a system that I helped develop. It's not an official anything, but I have a Profit First professional who works with my clients, who we set up 4 bank accounts instead of 7. And that taking out the tax out of sales tax, I'm talking about right now, but there's other tax too, out of every invoice that comes in and putting it in that account, absolutely 100% protects you from spending that money when, like you said, it's not yours. And
whether or not you've ever even heard of Profit First before, and I'm sure most of the people at this point have, but long before Profit First came out and I started working with designers, I at a minimum 3 bank accounts. 1 for operating expenses, 1 for money that you receive that's going to go to a vendor at some point for product. Don't even touch it. Mm-hmm. And 1 for sales tax. And you just, even if you get the money on a whole proposal and the proposal includes the sales tax part, that all goes into whatever account, not the operating expense account, whatever that cost of goods sold or vendor, whatever account you want to call it. And then you take the sales tax portion and you transfer it to the sales tax account. You keep the rest in, and then whatever that profit amount is, you bring that into operating expense. At a minimum, that's what you should be doing so that you don't make a mistake and you spend that money that isn't yours on sales tax.
Oh my God, it's so true. I've seen so many people get caught with that. Christine, is it acceptable, ethical to roll the sales tax into the price to make it more palatable for the client? I'm sure it will totally screw up the books, though. Good question. So in other words,
I see what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, in other words, if your design fee is $100 an hour, which is very low, and you just say it's 110, and you're paying the sales tax, but it's not showing as a separate line item.
You know, this is funny that this isn't anything to do with interior design, but I go to a place and I get protein shakes, and I go to a place when I take my kids and we get ice cream, and they will purposely make their price $4.63 so that you give them a 5, and that includes the sales tax. And they have it set up that way so that it's easier for change or anything like that. That's just an example of how you could do it. So instead of saying everything's $100 and now you owe me $106.25, they make it $93 or whatever, so that
it rolls up to 100.
Yeah, exactly. That's just an example of.
But if you don't have a separate sales tax being charged on your invoice, and then when you get in the $100 to manage your books, isn't that going to get really messy for your bookkeeper? Because they have to say out of every $100, there's $6.30 in it. It has to go.
If you're collecting $100 and you're charging $100, then your
bookkeeper would have to take out whatever.
You should be charging sales tax on the $100.
Right. But she's saying if you actually build it into your price, so they don't see it as a separate line item. They just go, it's $155 an hour, and $10 of that, and I'm just rounding, guys. $10 is sales tax. It has to go to the municipality.
Yeah. So at a minimum, in case you get audited, I would keep that whatever that sales tax amount is, separate on a separate line item on the invoice, just so that the auditor, if you ever do get, and you may never get audited, but if you did, they can see that breakdown and how that's calculated. Because I feel like an auditor will come in, and some are nice and some are jerks, and the jerk could come in and be like, nope, you should have paid it on the whole amount. And if you say that, they're like, well, you didn't break it out, so we don't care.
So the answer to that is no, Christine, don't do that.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Okay, let me see what else. And then we're almost done. It's 5:27.
You don't want to stay till 8:30? We could.
No, I really don't. And I was telling Peter before, so everyone listen up. I've been saying I'm going to stop weekend wind downs and just only do them here and there as a special. So I'm going to Nashville for Funnel Hackers Live at the end of the month. And I do not have any weekend wind downs the next couple of weeks in order to up my group and get ready for Nashville. And by the way, I'm meeting Tony Robbins.
Oh, that's a pretty big deal. That's cool.
So excited. I've been wanting to go to one of his events for years. I never have. He's one of the speakers at this event. It's about 5,500 people. And then I'll be going to Mexico, Cancun, for an IDS offsite meeting, which, believe it or not, we actually never see the beach. We're in a boardroom the whole time. And then going to support my dad in Vegas again, since my mom passed away. But I'm trying to catch up here, right? Tracy, I'm jumping right to Tracy. Yeah. She needs more wine. Yeah. So how do people find you, Peter, even though I know you're really busy right now? Well,
so I do have different online classes right now besides the sales tax one is not out, but I have other online classes. You can go to my website, thedesignercpa.com, and you can also follow me on Instagram. I'm on there. But if in all seriousness, if you do have an idea besides sales tax, because I am working on that, of a different type of class that you would like more information in class. I love teaching. I love taxes, but I love teaching. It's my passion. So I've had a blast coming up with these online classes, whether it's taxable or not. But
well, we'll find out, Wendy.
if anyone does have any ideas for that kind of stuff, you can do that. But you can find me on Instagram, and my website is thedesignercpa.com.
Love it, love it. And again, I do Zoom trainings with other professionals and put them in my membership site. And Peter was so gracious enough to do how to read your balance sheet and how to read your income statement.
Yeah,
that's on my membership site, which is
oh my gosh, I'm sorry. And my marketing company would kill me if I didn't say this. We are coming out with a new ebook about sales tax. So if you do go on my website, thedesignercpa.com, you can sign up on the wait list so that as soon as it's done, it's actually being designed right now. As soon as it's done, you will get it. So go on my website and just get on the website. Get on the wait list.
Excellent. Great idea. I know we talked about that, and I didn't know whether you were able to get that done.
That part is done. It's the details of everything else that is done.
And of course, Peter's one of the authors, as I am, in A Well-Designed Business, The Power Talk Friday Experts by Luann Nagara. See, we're on the back cover here. Yeah. And I glanced at your chapter before you came on today, and I'm like, I really have to read this.
Oh, you haven't read it yet. How dare you?
Have you read this whole book yet? Have you?
I have not read the whole book.
Okay.
I didn't read my chapter because, whatever. But I've gotten through like half.
Yeah, that's.
And I will tell you that between Luann Live and that book, and I did Power Talk Friday back in October, the best part of being part of all of this, because I'm having a blast doing it.
Yes.
But I come home with like 3 or 4 things to use for my own business, which is awesome. So. Yep,
every time. Me too. We as, experts in our areas, we learn from each other all the time.
Yeah.
Like Peter's going to let me know if I should be charging tax on these courses. Thank you, everyone, for attending Weekend Wind Down. I hope you learned a ton. Thank you, Peter, for being here once again.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. Everyone go visit his website, thedesignercpa.com. Get on his waiting list for your Sales Tax
2020 ebook. That should be ready sometime in February.
Okay, and everyone go drink a little bit more because this was a heavy topic. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'm actually not going to do Weekend Wind Down for a couple of weeks, but I'll be in my group, the Interior Design Business Forum. So if you're not in there, get in there because there's always a tremendous exchange of information. And we're almost up to 5,200 interior design business professionals. So very grateful to everyone for being in there. All right, everyone, I will see you soon. Have a great weekend.
All right, have a good weekend, everyone.